Hello people of the internet, welcome to episode 28 of Paint to Life, the YouTube channel where we take tiny plastic miniatures, throw some acrylic paint on them, and breathe life into them with storytelling so you might learn something new on the subject or take them to make your own in your own campaign. Since we're in the fall and heading into Halloween season, this will be the first Paint to Life episode in a series of horror-themed episodes for the month of October. So tonight we'll be painting the Nolzur's marvelous miniature Nightmare model. Also, tonight I'll be celebrating my first YouTube milestone at 500 subscribers with a giveaway. So make sure you watch to the end of the video so you can get in on that and get something truly unique that I'll be giving out. If this is your first time here, welcome. The painting video that goes up in that corner gets released on Tuesdays with commentary if you're interested in why or how I did the things I did and painting along. By all means, if you like my content, please like and subscribe. And if you're a returning visitor, welcome back, friend. I'm GM Atank. Let's get painting. Alright, last week I painted a custom 3D miniature Atank of Iron Forged and learned the story of my experiences running a guild in the World of Warcraft. If you missed that episode, you can catch it up there if your browser or your device supports it. Nightmares are emaciated looking stallions approximately 6 feet tall to the shoulders with a mane and tail of raging fire. On further examination, however, the warhorse-like exterior is revealed to be entirely superficial. They have huge head, viper-like fangs for teeth, and malevolent dark eyes illuminated with a fiery glow, and nostrils that spout orange fire when they flare. Basically, their entire black coat is just a shell containing an inner hellfire that's dying to get out. Whether or not nightmares could truly reproduce in the wild is a matter of contention for scholars in Faerun, but there is known a way to create one, and it involves taking a live Pegasus and agonizingly removing its wings through a torturous ritual which ends with the Pegasus losing its noble qualities and inherently inheriting despicable evil traits instead. Nightmares gallop through the night with unnatural agility, their black bodies appearing and disappearing, leaving onlookers with only the slight sight of infernal flames that appear and disappear through this smoke screen that they create that obscures and conceals them, although they can see through it just fine. Now, despite being wild and roaming creatures, they are known sometimes to serve willingly as mounts for missions of malice, for creatures of sufficient wickedness and ability. Those that wish to ride them will be wise to remember that these are not simple steeds. Nightmares are fiercely independent, untamable, fiends with their own instincts and motivations. The titular power of nightmares was that to enter your dreams, either before the victim had encountered them in the flesh, or as an ill omen to their victims afterwards that might have survived their attack. They could shift from the material to the ethereal plane as well as the astral plane and the Shadowfell at will. And despite not having any wings, they could fly. In fact, they flew faster than they ran. When they did run, their hooves would ignite flammable objects, and they were capable of erecting massive walls of fire behind them in their wake. With tooth and hoof, nightmares savaged most creatures they came upon. They could inflict death so gruesome that they would create vengeful and enraged phantoms left behind from their victims. Now, if you encounter a nightmare in D&D as a player, remember, this isn't something you can control or attempt to tame with a simple animal handling check. This is a corrupted, twisted, evil being that is fast, deadly, and can shift from the material and corporeal ethereal plane on a whim. Additionally, they're immune to fire and can grant fire resistance to their rider. As a DM, a nightmare can be an interesting adventure hook on its own. Although they can't speak, they understand common and can communicate empathetically. And also, if it's just sitting there all by itself, where or what is its rider? But who is our nightmare? The country of Cormyr is full of valiant knights and spellcasters, people whose deeds are legendary and give the common man a sense of security that they have everything in control. One knight in particular, Tybos the Elegant, was one such specimen. Born of luxury and wonderful means, he had everything a mortal could desire, including a blessing of the gods, from birth, as his charisma was unmatched even at such a young age. Of course, he trained in all the noble arts of speechcraft, dance, heraldry, but then he also did swordplay, jousting, and he was a wonderful knight. When on assignment one time, he was approached by a Pegasus who took a liking to him and offered herself to him as his mount. So from then on, bards wrote tales of his exploits, and it was pretty fantastic. A Pegasus is a celestial, winged horse that can be persuaded or sometimes chooses a good aligned person to serve as a mount, and when it does so, it forms a bond with that person forever. Tybos Pegasus' name was Aurora. They undertook many quests together, and their renown and fame made them known both far and wide. He had been summoned to the court by the King of Cormyr in Suzail, and he had to travel there. Unfortunately, Aurora had been killed in action not just a year ago in a fight with the Manticore, and he hadn't been to the capital since. The grief was still too much to bear, and he was still in mourning. This great accolade would well be worth the trip, and hopefully break him from his depression, so he set out on the 3-day journey from Arabel with his squire, Jacob of House Froze. Their first night, they made camp not too far from the road, under the stars of Selûne's sky, and he drifted off to sleep. Walking towards a door to a throne room, wearing spectacular fashion worth a small fortune, he hears a horse screaming in the background. He smells an acrid smoke as it begins to slowly fill the hall coming from behind him. He doesn't dare turn around. He runs to the door, into the doorway, and wakes up. That morning, Tybos keeps the news of the unnerving dream from Jacob, as they begin their ride towards the small town of Lockwood, just bordering the King's Forest, more than halfway through their journey. Tybos is tired, but unable to fall asleep in his saddle as nights sometimes do. Every now and again in his peripheral vision, he sees a flash of black, and when he looks into the forest, he sees a black horse dashing from tree to tree, but right when his eyes focus on it, it disappears. Once they arrive at Lockwood, he can barely keep his head up when Jacob announces to him that they're at the inn and ready for sleep. Now Tybos recognizes this inn. He stayed here before. He gets agitated. He doesn't want to stay, but he knows it's too late to ride, and he knows he's too tired anyways. The knight and squire stable their horses for the night and head inside. Some of the locals are gambling at a table, and one of them recognizes Tybos and says, "Ah, long time no see, my lord. Come to win back some of your belongings?" The men laugh as Tybos doesn't even turn his attention towards them. Jacob scolds them and reminds them that knights of Cormyr are honorable and wouldn't be caught dead gambling with their ilk, so they must have the wrong person. The men utter apologies under their breath, "Sorry, my lord," and continue to play. Tybos just walks right past, upstairs, to the room, barely gets his armor off before he collapses in the bed and falls asleep. Walking towards the door to a throne room, his clothes worn and dirty. The room seems darker than before, with the same noticeable acrid smoke everywhere. He hears a horse screaming in the background. He feels a close source of heat coming from behind him. He doesn't turn around. He runs to the door and wakes up. "My lord," Jacob exclaims, "wake up! You've slept all night into the morn, at least 10 hours. We can't wait any longer or we'll be late." A look of anguish passes over Tybos' face as he realizes he feels like he hasn't slept for more than 5 minutes. As they journey on their final approach to Suzail, sounds start to act strangely as they are almost amplified in Tybos' ears, that with the exception of Jacob's talking, which is almost impossible to hear. "Don't you think, my lord?" He snaps out of it. "Gosh, my lord, you look extremely disheveled. We will have to spend the night at the inn. We can't go to the palace with you looking like that," says Jacob. The pair travel on and arrive at Suzail just after dark. Tybos can't recognize where they are, or even what the inn is called. He walks in, doesn't even acknowledge the announcer herald at the door, who exclaims, "Tybos, the elegant of Arabel." Tears fill his eyes and run down his cheeks as he pushes past the saluting men and women. He runs upstairs and finds the first open room that he can, says a quick prayer to Helm for protection, and collapses into the bed for some much needed rest. Walking towards the door to a throne room, his clothes tattered and torn. The room seems even darker than before, smoke everywhere choking the light and burning his lungs. He hears a horse screaming in the background. He feels the heat from behind him burning his neck, but he doesn't turn around. He runs to the doorway and suddenly finds himself at the inn in Lockwood. But this was about a year ago. There's a Pegasus calmly waiting, alone, tied up near the door.
A drunken Tybos stumbles out from the inn. A voice from behind him shouts, "What do you mean he doesn't have anything left to gamble? What about that horse of his?" Aurora nervously glances at him and clicks her hooves. A bolstered Tybos disappears back into the inn. Not even an hour later, 5 men approach the Pegasus, clobber it with clubs, bind it with ropes, and drag it off in a cart.
It is taken to a stone tower. There are pentagrams drawn in chalk in the stone floor, a look of terror in the beast's eyes. A hooded man is performing a ritual. Hands begin to saw the wings off of the creature as it whinnies in terror while the chanting can be heard. There's an explosion of flames, and from the ground rises a bloodied white horse, trembling in agony. From the portal, out comes a large skeletal hand which grabs the terrified creature and drags it into the fiery chasm before it closes in a fiery flash. He feels flames on his face and he realizes the inn is completely on fire. There are pieces of dead townsfolk strewn about. From the forest in the distance, a black and fiery streak approaches him and stops maybe 5 feet away. The creature then bows its head down, presenting its back to be mounted. "Aurora?" Tybos says, and in his mind he hears a single word: Vesper. He mounts onto the horse and begins to race away. It's much faster than any horse he's ever ridden before. The flesh under his tattered clothes begins to sear from the heat. He doesn't mind. He puts his hands on the creature's fiery mane, his fingers bubbling and burning like sausages from the flames. Vesper takes to the air, and the two fly over Lockwood and into the woods. "Aurora, I'm so Before that thought can be finished, his head slams into the bough of a pine tree, completely decapitating him while his body rides on atop the nightmare. Vesper then dives towards the ground and a fiery chasm opens up, which she descends into and closes up behind her. Smoke suddenly cleared, the trees gone, and Tybos was back at his inn in his bed in Suzale. Morning doves cooed as the warm sun rose in the distance on his face. He had finally gotten his rest. When his squire Jacob went to rouse him from his slumber, he pulled the sheet off to reveal nothing more than the broken, burned head of Tybos the Elegant. All that remained after his flight upon Vesper, the Twilight Vanquisher. So that's it. What did you think about the story of Vesper and Tybos? Here's the miniature. I mounted this one on a mirror to symbolize the ability of going from the material plane to the ethereal plane. And also, since it's a transparent miniature, this helps reflect the light up underneath when you're looking at it from the side and gives you the kind of glow effect I was looking for. So here she is for the shelf. Quick thanks to Ryan over at We Talk D&D. Channel's in the link below if you're looking or you're a new aspiring dungeon master and want to get some tips. He's got a great channel for that. As well as Amy Enns from my own D&D group. She's a real-world equestrian who gave me the naming inspiration for tonight's episode. As you know, I hit 500 subscribers this week, and if you've ever done a YouTube channel, you know that to get to 500 is quite a milestone and quite difficult, and up to 1,000 for that matter. Until that point, you reach a certain critical mass and the YouTube algorithm starts to work for you. So here's the giveaway I've been teasing for the last little while. I'm going to be giving away this special custom miniature that I painted. It's the little teeny gold dragon wormling in celebration of my 500th subscriber. If you're interested in winning this, here's what you have to do. 1, you have to subscribe to my channel. 2, you have to like this video. And 3, in the comments below, you have to post which your favorite Paint to Life episode was and why. I'm going to be using that data to compile a list of best of episodes in the future as these things continue to grow and grow and grow. Next week, I'll have the list of entrants, and in true D&D fashion, I'll roll dice to see who the winner is. Then I'll get your contact information, and I'll make sure to mail this to you safely so that you get it in one piece. Now, everyone's able to enter in this. My friends, family, people who've been with me since day episode 1, people who just joined last week. It's completely open, so get down there and comment so you can have a chance to win. Please support your friendly local gaming store. Buy some miniatures and miniature paint. Always tell them the GM Atank sent you. Hey, who knows, one of these days maybe you'll get a special discount for doing just that. Anyways, that's all I have for tonight. We'll see you guys next week. I'm GM Atank. Wash your hands, people. Hey, Jen, YouTube sent me this for hitting 500 subscribers. Oh, yeah.